Hello, college football fans. Welcome to another edition of Urban's Take with Urban Meyer, three-time national championship winning coach, and yours truly, Tim May. Urban, let's just get right into it, man. You guys are headed back. You guys are now sort of jumping on the TCU bandwagon, aren't you, with Big Noon Kickoff?
Yeah, we did. We were down in Fort Worth, and the first time I was ever there. What a great place! TCU's campus is beautiful. We treated everyone's treated us so great. The fan base, but I really wasn't sold on TCU yet. You know, their offense was good. Really good players on offense. One of the best receivers in America. Potential Heisman guy at quarterback that's playing so well, but their defense wasn't very good. That's changed completely. They are lights out, Tim. They beat the mess out of Texas, and I mean defensively held arguably the best running back in the country to minimal yards, and they out-physicaled them, outplayed them, out-toughed them. Open field tackling was phenomenal. So I'm kind of on that bang. They're asking me to give a top four and how it's going to end up, and I think I'm going to go with the Wolverines because I think the loser of that game, if it's close, might still make it in. But I might change that. This TCU outfit is really good.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, we're going to get back to them in a minute because I want to get just a little hint about our checkmate moment. I want to get back to that and the way they played defense in that game. And Texas had no answers. Really offensively, but we'll get back to that in a moment. I want to touch on this before we really get going here. Matter of fact, I want to touch on this big in this. The 2012 Ohio State team is going to have a reunion of some sorts a week from now, before the game, because I'm calling it the game of the century 2, because the first one was in 2006, although thanks to you and the Florida Gators, they might not feel as good about that one. But 2012, Ohio State hires you to resurrect its football program after a really quick blip, 6-7. And as you and I've talked about before, 7 losses, the most for an Ohio State program since the 1800s. You guys come in, you run the table, you go 12-0. You're not allowed to go to a bowl game because you're serving a penance for the transgressions of the previous regime. That was Jim Tressel was run out of town. And, you look back on it now, man, those were just peanuts compared to what's going on in college football now. Matter of fact, most of that stuff wouldn't even have been, quote, illegal, end quote. But you guys found a way. And, a lot of people heap praise on you, but you heap praise on the seniors and especially the leaders of that 2012 team, right? Because you don't do anything without the players buying in.
Every major college football team has had a time. Alabama, Florida State, Penn State, USC, Oklahoma's. There's been that where they just fall off the edge for about 5 years, or sometimes 10 years, sometimes 15 years. Ohio State was poised to do that. There was a time, and Coach Tressel is a great friend. And when I look back at the way that was handled, I can't disagree more. And then all of a sudden, we find out that, when I took the job, I remember talking to everybody and saying, okay, if we lose scholarships and lose a bowl game, usually that's a death nail for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was assured, and, the people I've talked to said, we don't think that's going to happen. It'll be a probation. And then I take the job. 2 weeks later, I get the phone call from Gene. And so we lost nine scholarships, Tim. People forget that, 9 scholarships and a probation, and then no bowl game. That means every senior can leave without punishment. And if they would have left, I don't believe Ohio State would be where we are today.
Yeah.
We certainly wouldn't have rebounded as fast as we did without that group. So I would go on the record as saying, I think that's arguably the most unselfish group of football players ever to play at Ohio State.
Yeah. And
I hope they get rewarded. I promised them as long as I'm alive, I'll never, anything I can ever do to support that group, because they didn't have, Zach Bourne, Jeff Hireman, John Simon, that group, they didn't, Ryan Shazier, they didn't have to do that. They did.
Yeah. It was stunning too. 12-0 season had some magic moments in it. We've talked about that before even, but did at the end of that year, I think everybody was bitter you guys didn't get a chance to play for a national championship to even be in a consideration. You know, that was what the next to last year of the BCS, et cetera. Y'all would have been right in it. It looks like. But on top of that, did you leave that season feeling like, man, we got robbed? Well, of course you felt that way, but also, hey, we got something going on here. Could you feel the turnaround just palpable?
I could. And I've never been more attached to a group of players than that senior class. Because were we a great team? We were a great team, but we weren't as talented. You know, we weren't. Do I think we would have played Notre Dame right to the wall to compete for a national title? I do. But you think we had 2 overtime wins that year?
Yeah.
Or Purdue and Wisconsin. You know, there were games. We just struggled, you know, and offensively when Braxton went down, you know, your playlist just went really small. And so it was about effort. It was about unselfishness. I mean, at one point I went to Zach Bourne on a Tuesday practice and I need you to play linebacker. Within 5 minutes, you start middle linebacker at the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
Never play linebacker sophomore year in high school. So I talented, heart. But were we that like the 2014 team? No, there wasn't that type of talent. But it would have been fun to imagine playing Notre Dame for the national title in the year after going 6-7.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, that's the thing. But when you got a team that figures out a way, I mean, the 2002 Ohio State team was that team. They figured out a way to keep winning games, man, and by hook or crook. And sometimes that special carries over. You know, it can carry that one more game. And it would have been interesting. I'll just put it this way. It would have been interesting to see if, in fact, because there was something very special about that 2012 team. I know you're looking forward to being with those guys again. Hey, speaking.
I'm going to ask you, Tim, you that both of us, we can never let that group disappear.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as we're walking this planet, you know, that group, I'm telling you now, I've been involved in football and so have you been. What that group did, to me, there should be a plaque or something for that. What that group did, because they could have all in today's world, they would all left.
Yeah, no, you're exact. Some of them might have left before the season. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm getting my transfer portal thing mixed up here. You know what I mean? But no, absolutely, and just the characters on that group. I mean, Zach Boren, man, you know, he's the kind of guy to lead the flag up Iwo Jima. You know what I mean? He's that kind of character, and when you've got a guy like that, and you get him on board, a lot of people follow, right? And you felt that in that season.
Well, he was the ringleader. He became the ultimate leader. Him and Johnny Simon were, you know, I get a little emotional when I think about it because, you know, we ended up having a nice 7-year run. That does not happen without those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know Gene Smith and the administration, and I'm going to thank them for doing that because that group to me, if you ever walk in the Woody Hayes facility, we have a mural dedicated to that group of players. And I remember telling Volt, no matter what happens, I don't care. They better tear the building down. Don't you dare take that wall
down. Yeah. Don't have the property brothers come in and paint over that. That's the thing. Hey, real quick, let's stay on that genre a little bit. Ohio State, Michigan appear to be headed for the big time collision. Like I said, the game of the century too. You know, we all remember 2006. Bottom line is, are either one of these teams, I'm stammering because I'm trying to figure out how exactly to answer this because I don't believe either one of these teams are in jeopardy this weekend. They are if they don't maintain their focus. Michigan hosting Illinois. Illinois 2 weeks ago, you just said, oh my goodness, here comes Illinois. But now Illinois doesn't look like the Illinois I was looking at 2 weeks ago. And Ohio State goes to Maryland. You remember that 2018 game, right, at Maryland, the last time Ohio State went there? 52-51. They miss a 2-point conversion pass. They could have stolen it and really ruined things for you guys. That game came out of the blue, in my opinion. But what do these teams have to keep in mind this week, I guess, on the game before the game?
Yeah, I used to always tell people I wish I could just ship our team away on a desert island and no more social media. Quit looking at your phones, and it's all about the rivalry game. Because make no mistake, both teams, if they lose the rivalry game, whoever it is a failed season, and that's life in the big city at Ohio State. But Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh just got to somehow rely on the leaders, because it's not them. It's the leaders in the locker room to focus on this game, because Maryland's got a very talented team. Illinois' got an excellent defense.
Yeah.
And a good run game that, if you don't, it's college football. If you're not up on it, but the talent differential on both teams compared to who they're playing is there's a wide margin of talent issue there.
Yeah.
So it will be a huge one in 2 weeks, and I'm nervous, and I'm not even involved in it.
Hey, speaking of nervous, you helped recruit. I mean, y'all recruited Cameron Babb when you were there, and you and Zach Smith was a receiver coach then and stuff. What did that moment mean to you? Obviously, you had to go home ill last week. You came down with the flu, and I'm glad you're feeling better. But you weren't able to be in the stadium for that moment when he catches a touchdown pass. It's a guy that's had 4 ACL surgeries, meniscus tear taken out of a knee. I had his dad on my podcast this week, Ty Babb, just talking about the trials and tribulations, but how this kid kept his head up. Not only that, became a leader of the team, even though that was his first catch ever as a Buckeye, and it was for a touchdown last week. But you got to at least see it, replays of it. What did that mean to you, Urban? Because this guy was one of the elite receivers in the country when y'all recruited him out of Christian Brothers High School in St. Louis.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal guy, and I was there when 2 of the ACLs happened. And I remember just grabbing him and hugging and sobbing, and his mom and dad are incredible people. His faith got actually stronger during this time, and his belief was even stronger. His value on the team, it's hard to even imagine, became stronger. And when it happened, I saw it, or saw the highlight, and I sent him a text right away. And just God works in mysterious ways, and this guy's a soldier. He's a guy that he's going to impact so many people's life. And he already has on the team. You hear the players talk about him. So it's a great moment, and good things happen to good people, and it did.
Yeah, a 2-time captain. That just tells you about his leadership qualities, right? I mean, that was one of those things you guys, you and Mick Marotti especially, tried to instill in this team with those real life Wednesdays and everything else, the leadership groups, to see it continually pay off. I'm not trying to, butter you up here, but that was one of the things I definitely think you took to the next level when you were at Ohio State, about developing leadership from within the team, because ultimately it is the team and it is the players, and they're getting the other guys to be accountable that really makes a team special, right?
And I learned that, along the journey, and I've always kind of believed it, but, when I used to go visit the Patriots, and they had Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, Willie McGinnis, and obviously Tom Brady, and Rodney Harrison, and Mike Vrabel. And
yeah,
that's when I really learned, like, wait a minute now. Yeah, I know but Belichick does not control the locker room. You like to think you do, but you don't. If you can somehow reach the alphas in your locker room, like the Zach Borens, which we talked about, the Johnny Simons, those kind of people, without that in the locker room, you don't have that.
Yeah.
And so we worked extremely hard. And Tim Kite became our leadership consultant. And, you think to get knocked down your 3rd string quarterback, you lose a teammate, tragic, that 2014 season, there had so many things have to go right. But it's not by people say, boy, you guys got very fortunate. No, we had incredible leadership in that locker room, and it wasn't by accident.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you're seeing it around the country now. I mean, Georgia, for example, I mean, I didn't really pencil Georgia in to be able to repeat or have a shot at repeating, just based on everybody that team lost, and here they are, number 1 in the BCS ratings. You got Ohio State. I think Ohio State has really not been super tested yet, but we know that's coming. And then you've got Michigan, has not been really super tested yet, except maybe by Maryland, who Ohio State's playing this week. But we know that's coming in 2 weeks. And then you got TCU sitting there. But then sitting right outside Tennessee, which lost that game at Georgia, let Georgia spot them a big lead, and then they kind of hung in there. But you think, I don't know, as you and I were conversing, you think Tennessee might have what, the easiest path from here to maybe make that Final Four? That is, if one of these guys stumbles. What are you talking about? Because obviously one of these teams is going to get beat, either Ohio State or Michigan.
including Georgia, Ohio State, the Wolverines. Tennessee's got the easiest path.
Yeah.
They don't have to play in that championship game.
South Carolina and Vanderbilt the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. They're in. I don't see any scenario unless they fail to, or they don't play well. They have to play well.
Yeah.
But I think they have the easiest scenario because they don't have to play a ranked team. To me now, it's all about health. Like right now, Ohio State's dealing with it's the 12th week of the year, 11th week of the year. Injuries at tailback. You got weather issues coming up. You're facing a really good team here in 2 weeks. The Georgias, they're going to have to face someone in that SEC championship game.
Yeah.
TCU's got a tough road to go, but I'm a little higher on TCU now than I was a couple weeks ago. Their defense, Tim, unless Texas is that bad, and I watched the tape a bunch of times Sunday because I'm going to do a piece on them in the Big Noon Kickoff.
Yeah,
they beat the sauce out of Texas. Yeah. I mean, they out physical them. They did. So I'm thinking it's either the Wolverines or TCU, that number 4 spot.
All right. Hold that talk about TCU. That's going to be in our checkmate moment. I'm going to ask you about that again. But obviously, you're high on TCU. And I don't, that was an eye opener last week. We'll get back to that in a minute. The Pac-12, does USC, if it wins out, which would include beating Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken, would include beating Notre Dame. Obviously, you got UCLA this week in a sold out Rose Bowl. Stadium, not the Rose Bowl. Would USC have an argument over Tennessee, a 1-loss Tennessee, if USC wins out? I mean, what's your thinking? Because that would mean they'd win the Pac-12 championship. Would they have at least an argument there?
Oh, sure, but as Matt Liner and Reggie Bush, we have Foxes from LA, and so those guys play USC guys, and it's almost like the country doesn't respect that. And I disagree, because Pac-12 used to be great. Now that 2 teams are leaving the Pac-12, the 2 best teams are coming to the Big Ten. So they certainly would. I don't see USC running the table. I think the schedule's too hard. If they run the table, they certainly have an argument. But this whole world is Big Ten and SEC. Yeah. And the SEC is such an elevated stature right now. Just the media, everything about the SEC is, and they've kind of earned their right. Think about the SEC. It's had 6 different teams win the national title in the modern era.
Yeah,
so the Big Ten, maybe 1, maybe 2. The Pac-12, not going to happen. The Big 12 had Oklahoma a little bit, Texas a little bit, but that's kind of disappearing. So the SEC's earned that right. But I think SEC, to answer your question, certainly would have a fight for that thing, but I don't think they'd get it.
It's funny. I had Joshua Perry on my podcast this week too, and I was making fun of the SEC because everybody's got their patsies almost this week, except maybe obviously Tennessee's playing or Georgia's playing Kentucky. That's no patsy. That could be an interesting game because Kentucky is. I think the term you have used many times is, maybe I'm wrong, is butthurt by what happened last week with Vanderbilt. That was a crazy game, but they've already locked up. They know it's going to be Georgia versus LSU. The Big Ten right now, we're 2 weeks away from knowing who's going to play for the Big Ten championship. The Big Ten West is a mess, and or maybe it's not. Maybe it's the most competitive division in football. Well, actually, you could call it that with 3 or 4 4-3 teams sitting there. Who in your mind comes out of the Big Ten West? Because all these things have to happen. There's no clear path for anyone.
What's amazing is Kirk Ferentz is. I put it past him.
They're swinging.
It's unbelievable, and their defense is that good.
Yeah,
their offense is at least is somewhat manageable, even though it's not. But great defense and his system, somehow. Now I think whoever it is going to get their doors blown off in the Big Ten championship game against either Ohio State or the Wolverines, but. I Purdue it could be, and then Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Iowa, Illinois. Even Minnesota is scrapping around there. It's just, I think it's great. I guess to keep the involvement. That's going to all go away when the divisions disappear. All those teams will have no chance ever to make the play. Which is, I don't know. I have feelings on both sides. Both the two best teams deserve to be in that championship game. And right now, the second best team does not live in the Big Ten West.
Yeah, but only, we touched on this the other day before we move on to the checkmate moment. I'm not a fan of seeing Ohio State and Michigan play on, let's say, November the 26th, and then again the next Saturday. Okay. I mean, I'm not I don't, if I'm a coach, that is the last thing I want. Or if that happens, I want to lose that first one and win the second one, because the second one's probably more important. As George, as the SEC has shown many a time, in that SEC championship game. I mean, Alabama, right on down the line, Alabama beats Georgia, and then Georgia comes back and wins the national championship. I mean, you as a coach, would you want to play Michigan 2 weeks in a row?
Well, I got news that no one cares about what you think or I think. The fans would love it. The money, can you imagine the money and the viewership to have a back-to-back? So
yeah,
I now work for Fox. Fox has the game. So Fox has the rivalry game and the Big Ten championship game. Are you kidding me? The viewership, the commercials,
yeah.
Oh yeah. If I'm a coach, no, I don't want it, but I promise you, no one's going to call Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh and say, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Because they don't care.
Yeah.
This is about resources, about a chance to have the Big Ten and have the, that game across. That'll be the most, every year it's the most watched game in college football.
But let me ask you this, Urban. If you're an athletic director in the West right now, I mean, or if you're a leader in the West division of the why would you vote for that? Why would you say, yeah, let's do that? Why would you be on board with that?
I wouldn't. I absolutely would not do it. But I don't, once again, I don't know the way that everything works there, but
right.
Money is a powerful thing. And Ohio State versus Illinois with a 35-point spread versus Ohio State versus the Wolverines with a toss up or a 5,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think Big Ten championship game should have a 35-point spread either.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I see both sides of it.
I'm with you on that. Hey, last thing, let's get back to the checkmate moment. You've touched on it a couple of times already. Matter of fact, you've stepped on it a couple of times already. TCU at Texas. TCU was ranked number 4 in the college football playoff rankings going into that game. They were a 7-point underdog, I think it was. It was something like that. And wow, from a defensive standpoint, they put a number on those dudes. And you got to remember, Gary Patterson is like a quality control guy or something for Texas now. He used to be the head coach at TCU, and that thing kind of came apart a little bit unceremoniously between him and TCU. How did that happen? What did TCU? Obviously, they made Quinn Ewers. You could see the deer in the headlights look on Quinn Ewers, a bunch of the freshman Texas quarterback. Well, really redshirt freshman. He was at Ohio State last year. But in a nutshell, what did they do that confounded Texas the most offensively? Because we know Sarkisian has a reputation, at least, of being one of the great schemers out there. What did you see in that game that just jumped out at you from a defensive standpoint?
Well, I've actually studied them a lot because I'm going to do a segment on the Big Noon Kickoff, and we did Texas TCU 2 or 3 weeks ago in Fort Worth, and they played Texas Tech, and a good team, but I thought there's no way that this is a championship level team, and then I was wrong. I mean, they came in, and the 3 things that number 1, they out-physicaled. Play number 2 of that game.
Yeah,
the outside linebacker comes and just knocks the tight end. I mean, almost knocks his head off.
Yeah,
and they out-physical. The second thing was open field tackling. Was Bijan, the great running back for Texas, couldn't have 40 yards, I think. Yeah. And the third one, they've run a 3-3-5 style defense, very unique style defense that they're all over the place. And Texas was, and it surprised me because Sark is such a good offensive coach. They were running plays that had no chance for success. The leverage and the numbers, they had no chance. So that means that they had to be confused. The quarterback had to be confused because he didn't check him out of that play. And it was a beating, Tim. So, yeah, that was you talk about checkmate moment and a program. That was a program win, instant respect, and a chance to make the college football playoff.
Yeah, Sonny Dykes, man, his story. You remember when you guys went out there in 2013 and played Cal, California when he was the head coach. He had this guy named Jared Goff was his freshman quarterback, and you know, you
Who
could
was
tell,
Ohio State quarterback?
huh? I believe guy was Kenny Guyton Jr. Cool, smooth jazz, Kenny Guyton Jr. But that was one. Hey, I've told you that a million times. The great thing about watching Kenny Guyton Jr. get to play quarterback was you actually got to see your offense. I mean, because Braxton called his own number more often than not. You know, Kenny ran that offense. I mean, it was cool. But there was something special about Braxton too. Please, Braxton, if you're listening, don't take that the wrong way. But yeah, y'all put a number on them right from the start, and but they hung in there offensively. And so Sonny Dykes kind of had this reputation coming from Louisiana Tech of, you know, offense. Where's his defense? You know, and wow, boy, did it show up last Saturday, and that puts him in good stead, right? I mean, to maybe run this table and get to that college football playoff, that would be a remarkable achievement, wouldn't it?
It certainly would, and you're getting to the point of the season where Rappel a good defense, you're not. And I think the college football playoff people had it right at first when they had him ranked like 7th or 8th. Well, that's changed. You know, that all you got to do is push play and watch what they did to a talented Texas team, and out physical to open field tackle and a 3-3-5 defense. That's the reasons why they did it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this version of Urban's Take, and I'm already looking forward to next week's Urban. It's not just Thanksgiving week, but you left an indelible mark as the head coach, you and your staff, on the Ohio State-Michigan game, the game. And we're going to talk about that a lot next week because you never lost to Michigan. And Ryan Day can't make that claim. But boy, he would certainly like to set the record straight when these two teams collide in what's looking like the game number 2. I know you're looking forward to it too. But Urban, any last thoughts here before we go?
No, once again, so much respect for that 2012 team. Please help me share those thoughts across the country and Buckeye Nation. And then next week, get through this week, man. Because next week is the one, like I said, I'm having a hard time sitting still, getting ready for that game next week.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, we'll see you then.